Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the first East Coast Rivals podcast. My name is Michael McCormick. I'm kind of the host of this thing. And to my right, as always, is Jacob Southpaw Ciesla. And on the phone is Scott Baylor. So, Scott, why don't you start out and tell people who you are, why you're here, and what brought you to East Coast Rivals?
Well, I'm a diehard Steelers fan, diehard Atlanta Braves fan, and I love talking sports. And I can talk sports with anybody. And I just would like to say my opinion on a bunch of stuff that's going on today in the sports world.
All right, Scott, appreciate it, man. All right, Jacob, what about you, brother?
Hey, good afternoon, everybody, or good evening, good morning, whatever time you're listening to the podcast. We appreciate you joining in. But as Michael said, my name is Jacob. Huge sports fan, like Scott. You can always talk trash to anybody, especially when it involves rivalries. So I'm a Jets fan. I'm a Mets fan. It is what it is, but we're gonna have some fun with this thing.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. We got the Steelers, we got the Braves over on Scott's side. We got the Jets, we got the Mets, and your host here is the New England boy, so all Boston, everything. So that's why we're East Coast rivals. We all hate each other, but, we seem to get along.
Shockingly.
I mean, again, everybody, whoever's listening in, appreciate you guys listening to our first podcast. These are going to start coming out weekly on Wednesdays. We're looking forward to it. To get us started, though, I mean, it's you can say it's a weird concept to start a podcast during the middle of a global pandemic, but let's start our conversation with that. Let's see what the sports world's looking like right now because of coronavirus. And then after that, we'll talk about the only sport that's really staying active and relevant right now, which is the NFL and some of the crazy trades that are going on in the offseason. So let's start off, and I'm going to hand it over to Jacob, and we'll start seeing how coronavirus are affecting all the sports right now.
Yeah, so I mean, with the coronavirus, this is completely an anomaly. I mean, we've never seen anything like this where everything is shut down. I mean, and this isn't just impacting the sports world as we know, it's impacting the world in general. So make sure everyone stays safe, of course, practice your social distancing. But with sports, I mean, NHL, NBA, and MLB all on hold right now. Um, it is kind of a crazy thing, but I think we're starting to get closer to it. I think we're getting closer and closer. I know that MLB has talked about a potential May return, so a month from now we might have baseball. With UFC, Dana White just buying an island, gonna see some UFC fights. So I like the progress that we're seeing.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Scott, go ahead and weigh in, and let's hear what your thoughts are on this one.
Yeah, I would like to say just everybody continue to stay safe during this terrible time in our country. But you can tell that America alone is itching for some type of sports to take their mind off this. And I feel like Jacob touched on, I feel like we're getting closer and closer as the days go on for the first sporting event to actually happen. And with Dana White purchasing the island, so we're still going to have UFC 249 with baseball, talking about coming back in May and doing their spring training facilities possibly. The NHL talking about doing some of it in North Dakota. So it's going to be interesting to see, and I'm glad they're working towards a positive goal.
So Scott, since we're kind of talking baseball here, do you think May is a realistic time frame for us to start baseball?
I feel like it is. Just depends on what they have in mind. I would not want to be in the shoes of all the commissioners in any sport right now to try to come up with a way to get their season going, especially with MLB. They have to get their season going or this season will be lost. I feel like it's realistic. Their idea of doing their spring training facilities or possibly just in Arizona it's a good idea, but just because it's a good idea doesn't mean it's going to work necessarily because it could affect playoffs and their format that they have set up for it, where possibly just doing a 7-inning games and no extra inning games and having ties. That's just going to cause more conflict, I feel like, more than helpful.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. But at the same point, if they can start playing baseball I think they should do it. And I know a lot of people are probably going to say, we need to wait this thing out and let things go. But the longer we wait on things like this, as fans, we're going to lose interest. Or not necessarily lose interest, but we're going to go crazy. We're not going to have anything to do. So, and I think and it's the same, and that's why I like the direction that the MLB is trying to head. With even though there's no fans, I know personally, I'm going to buy the MLB package. I'm going to be watching as much baseball as I can because I can't go anywhere else. I can't go do anything. So that's what I'm going to want. Same thing with the UFC, with fighting and all that. We're not going out and spending money at bars or restaurants or on miscellaneous things because we can't. So fight night, oh yeah, I'll spend that $100, $80, whatever it is, to actually enjoy something that is not what I've been doing for the past month. That repetition of, well, what am I going to do tonight? Well, I guess I'm going to do the same old thing. Watch old movies, watch old sporting events, whatever it might be. So I think bringing it back, I know a lot of people are worried about the financial aspects of it. College football talking about their season being in jeopardy, and it's partly because of money. They need the fans in the stadium in order to make money type of thing. With MLB, UFC, they can survive without having attendances for a full season.
Absolutely. And if they find a way to make this work, the money that they will rake in alone because of the fact that they will be one of the first sports back after all of this. Sports fans who aren't even big into baseball are going to be tuning in. Sports fans who aren't even big into the UFC are going to be tuning in just because it's something to watch.
Well, my following question is this: is when they decide, if baseball says, "All right, we're having our first game this day," question is, will people show up? Because you're going to have some hesitation, even when everything's cleared up. People are going to be a lot more cautious to go out.
You talking about the fans?
I'm talking about just in general. When sports gets back in general, they will have a little bit of a slow build at first because people are still going to be too cautious to get out of their house with the spread of this.
I don't know about that. I mean, people have a hard time not going to the beach right now, even though they've closed out the beaches. I mean, that's people are going to do what they want to do. I mean, people are dying for sports right now. So you bring a sporting event, I guarantee you people are going to show up.
I'm not saying people wouldn't show up. I'm just saying you're not going to have the crowds that you used to have it. And to follow off another thing that Michael said, UFC can survive to a certain point, but they don't have cards that they have coming up. They need those people there. They need, people watching and surroundings and stuff like that. It's just, until we wait and see, I don't know. It just depends on how cautious people are going to be once they say, "Hey, this is where the first game's going to happen," and fans are allowed to go.
All right, so let's switch gears. I know we're talking about MLB. The season really hasn't started. What about NHL and NBA? What do y'all think they do?
You think about it right now, the NHL playoffs, should have been starting this week. NBA should have been starting in 2 weeks from now. It's crazy to think.
Yeah.
So they were saying about North Dakota. So.
Well, but do they finish out their season, or do they just jump straight into a playoff bracket? Because right now, this is, and from what I've heard and read, it's not necessarily them worrying about when their season's going to start up again and finishing the season. It's more so next season that they're thinking about.
Right.
Because you can't. So they suspended play 3-4 weeks ago, beginning of March.
Yep.
So here we are. I mean, it's been about a month delay. They're not starting at least until May.
Yeah, no.
So that's 2-month delay. So you got to figure they had at least another month left of basketball. So even if they or hockey, even if they restart in May, they're not done till June. Then playoffs is usually a month and a half. They're not done till potentially August. Well, training camp starts in September. The players will throw fits about that. So, and I know the NBA has talked about, and this has been ongoing for a couple of years, about moving the NBA season to a Christmas Day start. that being their season opener, which this, with the whole coronavirus thing, that actually makes the most sense for them to be able to finish out their season, then do a playoff the way they usually do it, and then start their season Christmas moving forward, which actually isn't that bad of an idea because when you think about it, I know me specifically, I'm still in football mode when it comes to December. I'm not even paying attention to basketball. So to move that back a little bit potentially helps the NBA's marketability from a viewer standpoint.
It could, but getting rid of almost 2 months of NBA does not sound like a financially smart decision.
No, they wouldn't. They wouldn't get rid of it. They would extend it so their 82-game season would start Christmas
So basketball itself would end around July, August.
Yeah, just in time before we get to baseball playoffs and before football starts. It's
feed
not.
off what to feed off what y'all are saying right now is that with Michael, with you saying Christmas start, and Michael, I kind of agree with what you were saying is that this is not going to be good for the NBA. You're saying Christmas Day start. What happens in NFL around that time? A playoff push and playoff start. People are mostly focusing on NFL at that time.
I get that, Scott, but you have to think the NBA normally starts around Halloween. They're still in the NFL season. You're still,
It starts right around playoffs for baseball.
The NFL or the NBA really doesn't get any real good publicity with no other sport until February. So why not start later? So you're not competing with baseball playoffs. You're not competing with NFL for a lesser standpoint than what they were. I think we're getting a little off topic here because I know we were talking about the corona, but if the NBA were to finish out their full season, I think that's a realistic possibility for them to delay their start of next season. And if that's what they want to do, then they can restart their season in May or June, whenever it has to be, and do that, not miss any games.
Well, it's just
Otherwise, it's a Vegas style, or they're planning on going to Vegas and just holding no fans playoffs.
Well, it's just interesting because, like you were saying something about the NHL. Well, here's the problem with them just starting with the playoffs. 4 teams. You could look at the Sabres, Canadians, and then you got the Islanders, Rangers. They're going to be on the outside looking in when they are within a few points of being part of the playoffs. So if you start the playoffs, you're just robbing 4 teams that have a chance of getting into there.
Right, but I mean, just because, I mean, imagine if that's the same scenario at the end of their actual regular season. They don't get any more games. They got robbed. They didn't necessarily get robbed. They didn't play well enough to get there. Is this a bad setup? Of course. But the reality is, if they're going to finish the season, instead of pulling an NCAA and canceling everything, March Madness, like that was
outrageous.
I mean, was it the right move? I don't know. I would have delayed it. Because why not try it in May? I don't know.
Nothing like some good old May Madness, let me tell you.
But I mean, I don't see a reason. I mean, it is what it is. You either complete the season and extend it and then jeopardize the next season, or you roll with the punches, you roll with what's going on, and you just end the season, start the playoffs, so that way the players have an off season, and then next year, hopefully, we're back into a normal swing of things.
The owners in the league need to realize that there's no right answer at this point.
Absolutely not.
Everybody's going to be upset, or people are going to be upset no matter what you choose. If you decide to start from playoffs from day one, there's going to be fans like myself who are happy about it. There's going to be fans like Scott was bringing up who are pissed because they get kicked out. Or they can push the season, and fans can also be pissed because playoffs aren't going to start then until July, August.
And then you piss off the players because then, unless they're not delaying the next season,
because then they have zero turnaround time.
They have zero turnaround time, and they're going to be – they don't like that.
Do y'all agree with the fact of the way MLB is handling it, of players or free agents that were signed, like Mookie Betts got traded to the Dodgers, the Braves signed Cole Hamels and Marcell Ozuna to 1-year deals. They're literally on 1-year deals, and they're counting that if they don't even have a season They're counting it as 1 year service. So that team just spent 18 million to 19 to whatever $1 million on a player that never even took the field and is a free agent next year. But NCAA, they are taking their seniors and offer them another year of eligibility. I feel like MLB should have kind of done something a little bit different than the way they're treating it right now.
Yeah, no, and again, that's going to be such a tricky scenario because a contract is a contract. When you sign that contract, you are part of that team until such and such date. Um, and I don't know money wise how much Mookie Betts is getting, and then how much he gets per game he plays. Some guys just get a certain base salary, and then however many games they play, they get incentives, and of course their performance. So they wouldn't get any incentives if we don't play a game. But again, a contract is a contract. Now with eligibility and NCAA, we all know that they make up their own rules every other week. So,
Mookie Betts will be making $27 million this year.
but is it all guaranteed? Is there any incentive?
It's all guaranteed because it was part of an arbitration deal that he had prior.
So here's my question, because I haven't looked into it too much, Scott. Mookie Betts' deal, 1 year. We don't have a baseball season in 2020, let's say, right? Now, because of that situation, is he not going to see a dime of that money, or is it going to be similar to the same situation of, let's say he goes up to bat the first pitch, runs it out to first, slips on the bag, tears his ACL, done for the season?
But you may have just jinxed him right there.
I don't care anymore. What I'm saying is he going to see that money like he would if he was to get injured during that season, or is he not going to see any of it because of COVID?
Well, once again, we're in an issue of America that we have never have had. This isn't like a baseball strike. This isn't like when 9/11 happened, we stopped for a few weeks where people didn't play. It wasn't like that. This is talking about an issue where there is a possibility of playing, but out of the safety of the players and the fans, they can't do it. And the problem I'm having with that is that you're giving somebody $27 million. There could be some incentives, like Jacob said, if he hits a certain amount of home runs, average, doubles, whatever. But he's still getting paid because he's still part of his salary. It's all part of the contract. It just seems like the Dodgers traded their prospects away for this one player to make their team better. And now they lost out on prospects, and they lost out on money now even more for a guy that never even took the field possibly.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I think it has to count because the payers are getting paid. They're not getting played because they're not playing, obviously. But they're all getting paid. So that money comes from something. So you can't just all of a sudden start it over again next year. Like that money was never paid to those players or whatnot. So unfortunately, I think there's no real way around it.
But you're hired to do a job. You sign that contract for a job to fulfill for the team. And if you're not fulfilling it and you're not doing what it says in the contract,
but that's not up to the player, Scott. That's not up to the player. That's not up to the team. That's up to the commissioner who decided to suspend baseball.
I understand that.
I mean,
at this point, is it in his hands?
No,
really think about it.
No, it's not like he's choosing not to play.
They're forcing his thumb.
I understand that, but it's just the fact that I just feel like these people that have made trades and prospects and stuff like that, they literally are getting robbed because Mookie Betts can go sign somewhere else.
No,
like they can literally go sign somewhere else next year.
Well, here's what's going to happen. Just because that karma that Michael was just saying, Mookie Betts is not going to play, or whatever happens with the Dodgers, because he didn't choose the Dodgers. The Red Sox choose the Dodgers.
Yeah.
They traded him. So what's going to happen is he's going to come back to the Red Sox. He's going to sign a contract, and then he's going to tear an ACL on his first at bat. That's the karma for you, Michael.
That is. You're right.
Well, he doesn't want to be part of a team that's going to be rebuilding. He doesn't want to be part of a team that offered him $300 million and he turned it down because he wants $400 million. He's not going to be part of a team that's in a rebuilding stage, especially with Chris Sale, Tommy John. We don't know if he'll be there or what type of player he's going to be after the Tommy John, especially the way he throws. Other than after Chris Sale and possibly Rodriguez, I couldn't tell you anybody else in their starting lineup or starting rotation.
Yeah. Are you talking about a pitching rotation?
Yes.
I think you forget Nathan Eovaldi like that.
Because he hasn't lived up to his contract either.
I don't know. I mean,
listen, we're talking about COVID-19. We're not talking about the fact that the Red Sox are probably going to go under 500 this season. Thank you for bringing that up, Scott Baylor.
Hey, it's Coast Rivals, baby.
what do you guys think about the whole freak out right now with college football and them saying that their season's in jeopardy? You think it's too early? Do you think it's too early to hit the panic button?
I think it's way too early to jump on that.
I mean, again, I think it was the financial standpoint where they need people in the stadium type of thing to make their money. But the fact that they're already thinking about canceling their season, it's like y'all are pretty far away.
I have a hard time listening to the NCAA talk about them having financial struggles because of COVID-19.
Oh yeah,
they are a money pit.
Well, that's the NCAA, but if we're talking like small schools, I mean, you got to think of UAB football went away for a couple of years because that school did not have the funds to do it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So I mean, every school, are the Ohio States, the Florida States, the big name schools in the Power Five, are they going to survive? Yeah. But it'll be the smaller schools that don't necessarily have the big revenue, the big contracts that might not financially be able to make it. And I think that's what the NCAA is more referring to with them having to potentially push their season or whatever, because if they just play without fans or whatever, there will be teams that won't have a program in the next few years.
I feel like it's a little bit – see, NFL, their football year's already started. Their draft is coming up here in about 2 to 3 weeks or so. NCAA, they don't really start. They have their spring game. You can move on from that. But NFL, throughout the summer, you got OTAs, you got stuff like that. That's a little bit more reason for them to be a little bit more worried about starting their season on time, because certain players might not be in the right amount of shape or have a good team set up yet.
Scott, we talking about practice? We talking about practice right now?
Yes, we are, because that's how
on practice.
Yeah,
and he's a Jet, baby.
You need Scott, OTAs.
Scott, let me stop you though, because you don't think college football players are practicing the same amount, if not more, as the NFL, and they're starting in the summer. They're there also. Different. They're doing the same thing. Their practices are suspended because of this.
It's a little bit more apples and oranges.
Yeah. Scott, you mentioned the NFL draft.
Yeah.
Adam, and I know Michael kind of talked to me about this, the Adam Schefter thing, where he was basically ripping the NFL a new one for continuing to do the NFL draft. And I know me and Mike talked about this. I actually like it. If they can find a way to do it virtually, and I know it's not necessarily the player-fan experience, but again, we've got nothing right now.
Yep.
So I know for a fact that regardless of the way they do it, I'm going to enjoy the heck out of it.
Everything the NFL right now is the saving grace for the sports world, because of
you're going to have some of the highest ratings during that draft.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. And especially if they can just do, and again, they're not going to have the player go shake the commissioner's hand and, whatever, but you could still have fans get on a Skype or whatever with a team and announce the pick of the player. So you still have that fan interaction.
Mm-hmm.
You can still have, the own players putting their own live feeds up, Facebook Live, Instagram Live, whatever, and show the reactions of how they got drafted. I mean, the technology that we have nowadays, I mean, Saturdays and Sundays, they do an iRacing with Formula One and NASCAR where they've got the actual drivers sitting in their own houses in racing simulators, and they're able to show it on TV. And they have people, Jeff Gordon, the other guys, commentating on it. I mean, they can make it work without having it be this big, deal about too many people together and social distancing and all that. They can still make it very entertaining, in my opinion.
It's definitely gonna be interesting to see. I like to see how they're gonna do because there's gonna be trades, people moving up in the draft and stuff like that. See how they do it. Like you said, it's not like it was years ago where the draft wasn't even televised. And anyway, now you can have almost every single player that's going to go in that first round set up, ready to go, have whatever jersey they need and everything. You're still having the draft, even though it's not the way it should have been. And you'll have the highest ratings because people need an escape and take their mind off the shit that's going on in the world.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree.
So,
Yeah, I'm glad that we transitioned over to starting to talk about the NFL draft and how that's going to impact, or the impact that's having because of COVID-19. Because, like I said earlier, the NFL is honestly the saving grace in sports right now because that's the only thing that's been actively consistent. It's the only thing that any sports broadcasting service is able to talk about because nothing else is going on right now. And with that, I would like to transfer over to start talking about the NFL and some of the crazy trades that have been happening this offseason because it's been one of the more active off seasons. One of the more frustrating off seasons I've ever seen.
Should we start with that?
Huh? Do you want to start with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So let's go ahead. Let's deep dive into watching the same quarterback that I watched since I was a little kid get traded to the city that I now live in when I was a New England fan. Excuse me.
He didn't get traded.
He chose to
He
leave
chose
New England.
to
How
leave.
does
Thank
that
you.
feel?
Thank you. Thank you.
He actually did, in
Mr. Steve.
my opinion, he did New England a solid because it's more or less of him saying maybe it's my time to take a step back and for New England to move forward with their franchise, I should leave. I feel like he did. I know it hurts. He's brought so much for that city, but it's good for him to take his ego aside and say, hey, I still want to play, but for this franchise to continue to grow, I'm going to leave, and then y'all build towards y'all's future because he wants to see them prosper even after him.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. So you don't have another Jimmy Garoppolo situation where you got to choose either guy.
Absolutely.
Like obviously, Tom Brady will, I'm guarantee you for forever, will be as the greatest New England quarterback of all time, if not in the NFL.
Right behind Drew
That's
Bledsoe.
a really good point for Brady to, if that's what his mindset was of, I'm going to do, let them grow and let me grow somewhere else. But I don't think that was the case.
So you feel like he was pushed out by Belichick or Kraft?
Yeah, I mean, and Robert Kraft was, he'll always have a contract with us. Yeah. What type of contract? Bottom 20 of the league? Like he had kind of been paid? Or should he be paid as one of the top quarterbacks in the league like we all know, deserves to be?
Well, there's been reports that this has been going on since the Eagles Super Bowl when they benched, what's his name? Butler. And they didn't have an answer. He didn't even really give an answer to the team why he benched him the entire game, where they possibly could have needed him because there was no defense in that game on either side of the ball. And apparently that's where it all started. But I would say it originally started with Jimmy Garoppolo. You can't sit there and say that there wasn't some conflict between them of trading the future quarterback away instead of Tom Brady. Belichick wanted to keep Garoppolo. Kraft still was backing Tom Brady because Tom Brady still wanted to play.
Yeah.
So
now, again, this is my team we're talking about, so I don't want to weigh in too much because I feel like my opinions are biased. But let me ask you guys this question: do you feel like it hits a point where the quote unquote Patriot way just isn't working anymore
For Brady?
for the organization? The way the Garoppolo trade went down, great example Scott brought up, Malcolm Butler getting sat in the Super Bowl.
I don't
Tom Brady leaving.
really
leaving the team.
remember the Malcolm Butler thing, but looking at the Garoppolo thing, we also prior to this past year with Garoppolo and San Fran, and even then he was shaky at times. In New England, you didn't know if he was going to be good or not. Like he had what 3 starts under his belt.
He did.
Yeah, they won those games, but that's a very small sample size to then decide. Yeah, we're gonna let the greatest quarterback of all time go do his own thing, and we're gonna ride out with this young guy.
But at the same time, he was at the point where you have Brady at least at what was he at the age, like
Did,
36,
did,
37 maybe?
did they
You
win
saw the
those
potential.
after he left?
By 13 points.
Yeah, so I mean, I think they made the right decision.
But you saw the potential in Garoppolo to
And
be
two,
that successor.
mm,
He was undefeated in the 4 games that Brady wasn't playing.
but Jimmy G didn't play all those games. He got hurt.
He did. He got hurt in game 3.
In game 3, that's right. That's when they brought in
He
Brissett.
was only 2-0 as a full-time starter.
Are you sure he didn't play all 4 games? Because they
No,
said going
not.
into his.
Jacoby Brissett did.
I want to say
Jacoby Brissett got to play.
he hurt his shoulder.
Yeah,
Something happened. He
it
got
was a
sacked
shoulder.
and he hurt his shoulder. Brissett
Yeah.
came in, won the game.
And
Brissett
then won
came
the
in,
next- won the
lost
next game.
lost the next. So actually, Garoppolo might have went out the second game. So I'm pretty sure Brissett started twice.
Either way, I don't think you could. If I was in a position of choosing between Brady and an unproven young quarterback, sorry, I'm choosing Brady. I think that's a pretty easy argument.
Let's transition away from New England and the impacts that Brady's having, and let's talk about the NFC South. That is going to be quite the division to watch this year. Scott, what do you think?
The NFC South. I feel like
He almost was in the division.
no. I was
NFC
checking.
South.
No, the NFC South. I was trying to weigh on my opinion. My opinion is on this situation is that I feel like right now, going off what the Bucks did last year with what they had with Jameis Winston, with a top 10 defense and receivers, if OJ Howard can actually be the OJ Howard that he was in college,
He wasn't that
and
good.
with Tom Brady, the question's still out there with him. With Bruce Arians, I think he's a great head coach and he can work with any quarterback if he could fit into that type of system. If that can all pan out perfectly, I feel like they can challenge the Saints for the division, because I feel like the Saints kind of took a step back last year, because every year it's always the same.
They went 13-3. How'd they take a step back?
Because they do the same thing they did every year. Is
In the
that
playoffs. I mean, that's the playoffs.
Oh,
but
we're not talking
regular
about
season-
Minnesota and what happens when they play Minnesota in the playoffs.
no? But I feel like their secondary gave up a little bit too much explosive plays.
That's why they brought in Malcolm Jenkins, the safety from the Eagles.
Yeah, but Malcolm Jenkins is in his late 30s or in his mid 30s. He's
Hey,
he's getting.
Yeah, but let's also remind everybody that we were just having a conversation about a man that's 42 years old, and we're talking about how he's going to shake up an entire division by going there.
Exactly. Boom.
Age
So
doesn't matter.
who has more control over the team, the quarterback or a safety?
Well, definitely the quarterback, but
Absolutely.
Exactly.
but
But
age.
you look at the talent. But with you have Michael Thomas on the outside, and you have Kamara. They need another weapon on the outside.
Yes.
They need
Emmanuel
another
Sanders.
weapon.
Exactly.
Fantasy sleeper, Emmanuel Sanders.
Absolutely.
Write it down.
If he can stay healthy, that's been his issue the last few years. If he can stay healthy,
I mean, do you think playing with Drew Brees isn't going to motivate him a little bit to stay healthy?
I'm not saying that's not true. I'm just saying you can't predict injuries. It's going to happen.
Had a great
He
quarter.
literally got traded to San Francisco
Last year.
because he had Achilles issues in Denver. He had issues in Pittsburgh where he couldn't stay healthy. So
I don't
there is a common.
If he does stay healthy, that's a pretty darn good tandem, Thomas and Sanders.
Absolutely.
I'm just saying it's going to be the Bucks are going to challenge the Saints. I still have the Saints winning the division.
Okay.
I still have them winning the division, but I still feel like they took a step back because their defense was a little bit more exposed, And if they can't get the ball to Michael Thomas, they don't have an outside weapon.
They've never had
So
an issue
I
getting the
was
ball
going
to
to say
Michael Thomas.
they don't have an issue with that.
no, I never said they had an issue with Michael Thomas. I'm saying they got exposed because they don't have another outside weapon. Because all they have is Michael Thomas and Kamara. They need more offensive help. Then you go to Carolina. That's going to be interesting to see what Teddy Bridgewater you're going to get out of there in Carolina.
Yeah, let's kind of talk about Teddy real quick, because there were quite a few quarterback changes, and Teddy was one of them.
Absolutely.
I don't know what to expect from Teddy. He played well when Drew Brees went down last year, but I don't think the offense is nearly as good, and nor will the play calling be nearly as good as it was with Sean Payton in New Orleans compared to Carolina.
Who's the coach
Yeah.
at this point?
I don't even know who
I
the
don't know.
coach
I don't
is.
remember
They
either.
fired Ron Rivera,
Yep.
and then I don't know who they
I
hired.
don't know. Took over
Scott,
either.
do you know?
No, not off the top of my head. They hired Matt Rule out of Baylor. Matt Rule, the Baylor head coach.
And that's a gamble because he's a college coach. I don't know if he probably has a background in the NFL, but
Well, if you look at the stats from Teddy Bridgewater here, you talk about in 2014, he had 14 touchdowns, 12 picks. Then in Minnesota, he had 14 touchdowns, 9 picks. Then he got his injury. And like those were decent numbers, but they weren't something that was exploding off going, this is our franchise quarterback type numbers. But then when he went to New Orleans, he threw for 1,300 yards, 9 touchdowns, 2 picks. So you don't know if he's going to replicate that.
Third place in that division, Panthers or Falcons?
I would say Panthers. Falcons to me
I would say Falcons.
I would say Falcons. You need to remember they just got Todd Gurley.
Exactly.
Yeah, but what Todd Gurley is it? With arthritis in his knee? Are you kidding me right now? We do not know what Todd Gurley you're going to be getting. He's had 2 surgeries on his knees. His knees have arthritis in them. They're still not getting any better from reports.
Here's the thing. He signed a 1-year contract. Atlanta doesn't care about what he looks like 2-3 years from now.
Yep.
They care about what he looks like now. And if he's solid, they're going to run him into the ground.
And if he wants to continue to play, he's going to run himself into the ground.
Yeah,
and he's going to put up numbers this year.
They don't care about his longevity because they only have him on a 1-year deal. They traded Austin Hooper, their tight end, to the Browns, which I think was a good move for them. And then they brought in, and this is going to be my other fantasy sleeper for all you fantasy football people out there, Hayden Hurst, the tight end from Baltimore, former first-round pick, never did anything, hurt. And now playing with Matt Ryan, who does like to target the tight ends. I think Hayden Hurst is a little sleeper.
Well,
I think Julio, Calvin Ridley, Matt Ryan, Todd Gurley, I think they've got too much firepower on offense to not finish third.
To touch off what y'all were saying, you look at Todd Gurley, 25 years old. He's had 1,200 rushing attempts, over 200 receptions in his career. That's over 1,700 touches on the ball at the age of 25 on a guy who's coming out of college with a torn ACL already. Then he had ankle and knee problems again. And since that knee problem where he's only had 800 yards rushing, 3.8 yards attempt. And then you go from 2018, he had 4.9, and then 4.7, 3.2.
You can't put that all on the running back. I mean, the offensive line. I mean, look at Le'Veon Bell. The offensive line with Pittsburgh was really good. The offensive line with the Jets is terrible. So,
but also that's the year off.
A decline in his career because of his age.
Yep.
I mean, with Gurley, you mentioned he's 25. Well, I would much rather bet at 25 he's going to be able to make an impact versus at 30. I mean, we're at the age where he can still compete. And he didn't have – yes, he had the knee surgery at Georgia, but you also got to think he didn't necessarily have that workload at Georgia because of that injury. He missed, 2 years because of that? So the workload coming into the NFL also wasn't bad compared to the running back Jonathan Taylor out of Wisconsin, who has 3 years of 250 plus carries coming into the league. So are we going to talk about him breaking down early too?
Well, it's the same talk that we had with Saquon Barkley. Is he going to have the breakdown as well? Because he had just the amount of touches as Jonathan Taylor did, if not more, if you count the receiving.
Yeah, I don't think like everyone wants to make a big deal about the amount of touches and things like that.
He
But
has arthritis in his knees.
it doesn't mean he can't ice them
He
up.
can't cut. He can't run the way he used to.
Right now,
That's going to show some effect.
Right now, would you put him in top 10 best running backs in the league?
Right now?
Now? No.
I would.
I would, absolutely. Todd Gurley's on-field presence alone, having him in the backfield is going to have the defense focusing not just on Matt Ryan, not just on where Matt Ryan is throwing the football. They didn't have that last year. Devonta Freeman was still, correct?
He was hurt most of the year.
Exactly. They didn't have that last year. Having a force running back, even if he doesn't put up the numbers, even if he doesn't get the touches, even if he doesn't produce the way he's producing, having him in the backfield alone is going to help their team out just because of him, who he is.
I agree with that. He will help out, but he's not going to be the Todd Gurley that they think he's going to be. And we live in a world in the NFL where it's more of not what have you done in your past, but what have you done for me lately? That's mostly what it amounts to. People won't put Big Ben Roethlisberger in the top 10 of quarterbacks because of what he's done the last 2 years and kind of this year with his injury. But it's all about what you did now, what you did for me now, and that's mostly what it amounts to.
So, do you? Gurley 2 years ago had this unbelievable year. Last year, everyone was talking about the knees and everything. He didn't get used as much with the Rams.
He fought with injuries a lot last year too.
No, he was healthy.
You're referring to 2019 or 2018?
I'm referring to 2019.
2019.
This past season, he was on the field. He wasn't given the ball as much. He was in and out, but he wasn't necessarily battling injuries. He was always playing. He wasn't as productive, and that's what Scott's kind of talking about. What have you done for me lately? Do you think he has a better year this year in Atlanta than the last season in LA?
I'm saying yes.
It depends on the offensive line in Atlanta. Matt Ryan got destroyed last year in Atlanta. Their offensive line needs help.
Matt Ryan can't outrun a chair. Let's be real.
Well, it's not the point. Roethlisberger can't outrun a freaking chair. Tom Brady can't outrun a damn chair. Tom Brady can't run. Philip Rivers. Do what?
He was standing back in the pocket majority of the game. He did not have an outlet to hand the ball off to last year. And if he did, they would get a half a yard and have to start over again.
Scott brings up a good point. The offensive line is going to be an issue.
Yeah.
But Gurley is not – Gurley's a three-down back. He can catch the ball as well as anybody in the league. So that will continue to make an impact to how they do things. And everyone talks about offensive lines, but you can transform your offensive line in 2 seasons. I mean, look at the Colts. The Colts – Pro Football Focus has the Colts as a top 5 offensive line because they've drafted for it, they've signed some guys, and they've gotten better. So, I mean, the Falcons can do the same thing. I know their offensive line has been kind of bad previously, other than their Super Bowl run.
Well, their biggest problem to me, the Falcons, is obviously besides the offensive line, is their defense. Their defense was ranked one of the lowest in the league last year. Of course, there was some injuries where their safety role, I think it was, tore his Achilles tendon for the 2nd year in a row. But at the same time, they need to address the offensive line. They have the 16th pick in the draft. I feel like the kid from Georgia, the offensive tackle, would be a good, but they will have to get a guard or a good tackle for them to have some success this year.
So what I wanted...
But you're still taking the Panthers over the Falcons.
As of right now, I believe so, because Christian McCaffrey is an entire game changer, and you add a running quarterback into that type of situation.
Teddy's not that good overall.
Quick question. Is Christian McCaffrey going to have the same year that he had last year, yes or no?
Yes. If not better.
That's hard.
It's hard to say.
That's hard, because when you got Kyle Allen as your quarterback, you're kind of really leaning on on McCaffrey
That's
significantly.
Buffalo, by the way.
That's Josh Allen there, bud.
Yes, Josh.
Whatever.
Way to go. Know your rivals, bitch.
All right, listen, we can keep talking about this all day, but I do want to know, Scott. I'm curious. All these trades that happened this year. Number one, biggest shock. Number one, most exciting trade that you're looking forward to see how it's playing out this year.
Obviously, the elephant in the room would be the David Johnson Hopkins trade, which to me still a head scratcher. Doesn't make any sense to me at all. My most exciting one, I would say, still to put Buffalo into that Super Bowl contender type talk is the Stephon Diggs trade.
Whoa.
You're putting the Buffalo Bills in Super Bowl contender conversation.
Brady leaves New England and all of a sudden the Bills are a Super Bowl contender. Wow.
They are Super Bowl contenders because they got Josh Norman to help Tavarius White on the outside. They got another weapon. They need to possibly maybe get another running back to replace Frank Gore in the draft. But with the team, and if they can have Josh Allen, excuse me,
there you go,
can take that step forward and actually get rid of the ball, throw the ball downfield, be the guy that he is, who's 6'6" or 6'4", something like that, 250, who could freaking sing the ball, but now he has the weapons to do that. The Hopkins, to address on the Hopkins one, it's a head scratcher. It doesn't make any sense to me. I feel like this could be the fall of the Texans than the start of something good for the Texans. Yeah. Because you have David Johnson. 3-4 years ago, back to what I said, he was great 3 or 4 years ago. Since then, non-existent. They brought in Kenyon Drake, who took over the starting role from him from Miami and killed it for them.
Well, that was also, to kind of defend David Johnson just a little bit, Cliff Kingsbury, I don't know any other guy who gets fired from his head coaching job, gets hired to be an offensive coordinator in college, and then gets hired to be an NFL head coach in a matter of 2 months or a month, whatever it was.
Right place at the right time.
He uses the number one pick to take Kyler Murray, which, whether was Kyler worth a number one overall pick? Maybe. But, they spent a first-round pick the previous year on Josh Rosen. Now, Rosen hasn't panned out either. But Cliff Kingsbury clearly – I think he's still in Miami.
He's in Miami.
But Cliff Kingsbury is clearly the type of guy who wants to build his own team the way he wants to build it. Doesn't care who he has on his roster, unless it's Larry Fitzgerald. He wants to build his own team. They drafted, 4 receivers last year along with Kyler. So what I'm saying is they traded for Kenyon Drake midseason and then benched David Johnson because Cliff Kingsbury just didn't know how to use or didn't necessarily like David Johnson. Not saying David Johnson maybe hasn't fallen off a little bit from being good. He's had the wrist injury and a couple other things. But again, I don't think you can blame David Johnson's lack of production on just him.
Well, I can, though, because the previous year he didn't really – he had that one coach that was there. That was the year prior. Last year he was able to play.
Right, and it was Cliff Kingsbury as the coach who didn't know how to use him or didn't necessarily like him, and then he saw less and less playing time every single week. And again,
because it fit his system. David Johnson probably just didn't fit his system.
And that's partly why they wanted to trade him.
So what you're saying is the Cardinals got away with a steal with this trade.
Oh, absolutely.
100%. And Bill O'Brien, if they do not do something, a good playoff push this year, because last year they had that game won against Kansas City. They had that game in the bag, and typical Bill O'Brien fashion, just choked, did not know how to do play calls, was doing stupid stuff, and cost them the game. And to be honest, they should have lost to the Bills, depending on the referees and how you look at that game. But it's just, and then you have your quarterback, your franchise quarterback, sending messages out from social media how upset he is that he doesn't even want to be there anymore because y'all traded for what's his name out there, Parker. Was it Parker or Fuller out of Miami?
Well,
And
no. What?
Yep.
No, it was God. What's it? Kenny Stills.
Yeah.
Kenny Stills. Excuse
Traded
me.
for Kenny Stills.
Traded for Kenny Stills, and then you have DeAndre Hopkins, and then they had
Will Fuller as well.
yeah, they had a great offensive setup, and then you take away arguably a top 3 wide receiver. Maybe some agree that he is the best wide receiver in the league.
You know what? They brought in Randall Cobb. Put some respect on his name.
Randall Cobb. What a fucking joke. Couldn't make it in Green Bay. Couldn't make it in Cowboys either. So
he's also getting old.
this is getting to a point now where you want to keep Deshaun Watson when his contract's up. You're not going to be able to keep him if Bill O'Brien's your head coach. If Bill O'Brien can put faith and tell Deshaun Watson, this is where I'm going with the team, and it's going to work. And if it doesn't work, Deshaun Watson's gone. He's not coming back. And then you're back to square one.
And he's still going to be wearing red, white, and blue.
We'll see about
Debatable.
that. We'll see about that. Let's switch, not necessarily gears because we were just talking about quarterbacks. I want to talk about Phillip Rivers in Indy.
I'm excited for that.
Really?
I am.
Because I was thinking about
I've
it.
always had a soft spot for Phillip Rivers. Always liked him.
I was thinking about this, and I don't think it makes him better. I don't think it makes Indy much better.
I feel like he has better weapons.
I mean, it makes it marginally better. Wait, Scott, did you just say he has better weapons in Indy?
I feel like he will have better weapons, a better offensive line. You said it yourself.
Yeah. Offensive line,
a top 5.
For sure. Definitely offensive line.
I wouldn't say weapons.
But weapons, no.
I would. He's actually going to have an
I was going to say, is
line.
the only weapon he really has?
Yeah, T.Y. Hilton and Keenan Allen, you can wash that. I mean, that's pretty close. If T.Y. stay healthy. But Keenan Allen had his injury history, too. But,
I'm high on Mac.
What?
I said I'm high on the running back Mac out of USF.
I like Marlon Mack, too. But he also hasn't played a full season since he's come into the league.
Fair.
They just lost Eric Ebron going to your Steelers.
Mm-hmm.
Debatable because right now he has not passed the physical because he had 2 ankle surgeries in December and he hasn't passed.
Well, either way, that doesn't mean.
Well, either way, he's not going back to the Colts.
Yeah, no.
Most likely. Yeah. So you're leaving Jack Doyle, who always gets concussions, and then who's their number 2? Charles Rogers or Ryan Grant? I mean. They don't have their first round picks. They traded that to get DeForest Buckner from the 49ers, which I think was actually a pretty good move.
Yeah, their defense is definitely going to step up, but I do agree they need to address the wide receiver issue.
But so what I'm thinking is for the Indy, I mean, Jacoby Brissett, when he was healthy last year, he didn't play that bad.
No, not at all.
Maybe there were some inconsistencies to his game, which is where Rivers should fill in those gaps. But again, they're only marginally better, I think.
He played good against the Pittsburgh at first, but then he had his ankle injury. Then they brought in the quarterback of New England, Brian Hoyer. So I feel like he had potential to go back to New England. I thought Brissett did, but not to get off track here.
You're getting off track because we're talking about Phillip.
Not to get off track.
I'm just saying I felt like Brissett did enough in Indianapolis to come back to be a starting quarterback on a team.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Well, he was pretty good. So does Phillip Rivers make them that much better? I don't think so. I mean, again, marginally. He'll pick up the inconsistencies that Brissett had. Phillip Rivers should be better at that. He should be more consistent.
They're still not a playoff team in my eyes. They're far from it.
Yeah.
I maybe 7-9.
I wouldn't say far, but.
I wouldn't say they're far from it either.
Because again, I mean, Houston. Who knows what Houston's going to do? I mean, Houston's one injury away from being 0-16. I mean, Watson's hurt. They're done.
Yeah, and then Jacksonville's taking a step back this year.
Tennessee is the team, and if you believe in Tannehill.
Yeah. All right, guys. I know we only got a few minutes left, but there's a couple more things I want to talk about real quick. As we're talking about quarterbacks and where quarterbacks have landed, there's 2 big. Rather big quarterbacks that are still floating around, and I don't even know if they're going to end up on a team. So what's up with Cam Newton and Jameis Winston?
Scott,
the reports I've received or read is that they've been Jameis Winston, perfect fit for him would be Pittsburgh. And then I've also heard Cam Newton, a fit for him would be Pittsburgh. But the only reason for that, I feel like, is because Ben is still questioning when he's going to be able to suit up and play. But for them to continue to be NFL starters, they need to go to a team where they can flourish and show off what they can do. I think Cam Newton in Jacksonville would be a good setup for him, possibly. And then Jameis Winston, that one's going to be questionable where he goes. He could back up somebody and fill in, maybe go fill in as a backup to Phillip Rivers, possibly in Indianapolis, just in case if Phillip Rivers doesn't work out. But,
well, Jacoby Brissett is still in Indy, so that's out of the question.
Okay, then I don't know where he could go. There's not really, maybe San Diego or Los Angeles, excuse me.
I have a hard time seeing him go anywhere.
I do too. Yeah. I think this is.
I feel bad for him.
This is definitely a tough thing.
Well, you just don't know where Tyrod's going to be like in LA. So
I think LA is taking a quarterback in the first round they have pick 7.
Yeah,
I believe
6.
I
think it's 6.
Yeah, they're taking a quarterback with that pick, and they're probably going to start him right away. I would think. Or Tyrod's the bridge.
It's Tyrod.
Sorry, Taylor, Mr. Taylor.
Taylor.
Yeah, and I think the kid out of Oregon is probably where they're going to go, and he'll probably get a start sometime next year. But Tyrod's going to be the guy they start with.
So, my thing with Jameis is, and I heard about this today, and it kind of made me laugh, but at the same time, kind of true. I mean, Scott, earlier you mentioned how Bruce Arians is a really good coach, and he can make any quarterback good. If he can't correct Winston's interception problem, I don't know what coach can. And if I'm a GM with that type of worry, I'm only bringing him in on a 1 or 2 year deal, not very much money, to serve as a backup.
Now, to defend Winston now, let's all not forget that he did just get LASIK done. The man can see.
The craziest thing is, even though he threw 30 picks, the man still threw for 5,000 yards and 30 touchdowns.
No,
it's his decision making is the problem. He needs to go somewhere where they're not going to put so much on his plate and feel like he needs to be the savior of the franchise. I feel like that was his problem coming into Tampa, that he felt like, I'm the man, I need to save this franchise, because they were terrible before he got there. And he felt like he needed to just put them on his back and do everything. And you can't put him in that situation.
Here's the problem with Winston. You mentioned that he felt like he needed to do all that. That's just the way Winston plays. Looking at his second year at Florida State, every single game, and me being a Florida State fan, for those of you who don't know, we came from that year where we lost to Oregon in the playoff, where it was bad.
One of the best fumbles I've ever seen in my life. Go ahead.
Don't even talk about the other one. I knew that was coming up. But Winston, Florida State played from behind in basically every single game that year because Winston turned the ball over in the first half. And when we went to Gruden camp, prepping for the NFL draft, if you watch that, and Gruden starts grilling him about all the interceptions. He asked him, "What were you doing?" Looking for Rashad. So he was forcing things. That's his decision making. That's just who he is. He's a gunslinger. He has short-term memory. So if he throws an interception, he doesn't care. He's going to go out, and he's still going to throw the rock. I don't know if that mindset can change just out of nowhere unless he's not playing. So if I'm Winston, I'm his agent, I do think Pittsburgh's the best place to go. Sit behind Big Ben, learn what you can. But if he proves enough and learns and grows enough from Pittsburgh, he might be able to be the quarterback after Big Ben.
And you have a good coach in Mike Tomlin.
Right.
But the problem is Ben has made so many strides to come back, and we don't know if he'll be ready start of the season. We don't know.
Which is another reason why Winston should choose Pittsburgh. because maybe that, think about him waiting and sitting behind someone to be a starter again. Well, he might have the opportunity to start right away if Ben is hurt.
Sometimes the benching and being a backup is probably better than starting right away. I feel like when he came out of Florida State, he still needed to sit on the bench and learn a little bit more than just coming in and taking over.
Did he start right away, or was Glennon still the guy?
Was it Glennon?
I
Glennon,
I know was the bridge for Trubisky, and that was a disaster.
But there was so much of a push for him to just be the starter that I feel like the franchise was also pressured and putting him in.
Oh, and he had so much success at Florida State. I mean, he won a national championship, lost one game in his entire career, won a Heisman. I think people felt he could play right away.
Did he not lose in high school either?
Maybe.
He also needs to go to a franchise where he has a little bit more discipline than what he has had, because the stuff that happened in Tampa stems from his time in Florida State. He's been with two football teams now where they're a little bit more lenient on him doing stuff. He needs a little bit more discipline to grow mentally as a better quarterback and as a better person, I feel like.
As a better person.
He's going to start giving back to charity. All right, let's switch over to Cam Newton real quick because I know we only got a few minutes left.
Yeah. Cam, if I'm a GM that wants to win right now, I think Cam is your best bet. He's a safe bet because – I shouldn't say safe because he's still an injury-prone player, but he'll be cheap.
Mm-hmm.
We know he's only going to get a one-year deal. It's not going to be for that much money, and you get a former MVP. I mean, if you're the Chargers, maybe he's the bridge guy for a year for a Tua or a Herbert or whatever quarterback they end up taking. I know some people in New England don't like the idea of Cam Newton, and Michael can maybe talk about that more. I know he doesn't like him, but if Belichick wants to win, I mean, let's face it, Belichick might not be around a whole lot longer. I mean, at his age, you never know. So if his goal is to win right now, I mean, Cam is the only quarterback available to them that I think gives him that option.
Well, he should possibly look at Washington then with Ron Rivera.
Yeah, but they just...
Do you think he'd stick with Ron Rivera? Because I don't think he would.
Owner's not going to allow that because they just drafted Dwayne Haskins.
Yeah, but Dwayne Haskins cannot read a playbook to save his life.
I mean, that's up to them, but are they going to pull
If you want to win right now, you sign Cam Newton. You bring Cam Newton in and have him work under Dwayne Haskins, work under Cam Newton. That's what you do.
But I don't think Washington's in a position to win right away.
They're not, but that's what I'm saying.
So it doesn't make sense.
You guys are also talking about Cam Newton like he's a player who could actually go into Washington and turn them around to be a contender for playoffs.
I mean, they went to the Super Bowl with nothing in Carolina. Got to think about that.
What I'm mostly saying is that
they had a great defense, of course, but
if Dan Snyder has so much faith and believes in Dwayne Haskins so much, you need to bring something in to help that kid learn how to read a playbook, read defenses, read schemes, do all that. If you don't do that, then you just wasted a first-round pick on a quarterback.
You have Alex Smith still there.
Alex Smith he's not going to ever play again.
No. Well, but you're talking about helping coach and teach, the professionalism part of being a quarterback in the NFL. Alex Smith can do that.
But Alex Smith is not a Cam Newton. Cam Newton and Dwayne Haskins, except for the running ability, are almost like they can relate and they can interact with each other and get to know each other, and he could teach them some stuff a little bit better than Alex Smith, because Alex Smith is not really on the sidelines and stuff like that as much as obviously because of his awful injury that he had.
But he should moving forward.
If he even comes back.
Yeah, it's just yet to be determined, And to feed off what Jacob said, Michael, I want to hear your feedback on this. When they were saying about the Cam Newton in New England, you said the comment earlier on in this podcast about the Patriot way is not working anymore, and the fans are against Cam Newton. Well, if the Patriot way is not working anymore, wouldn't Cam Newton be going in the opposite direction of that? Wouldn't that be a step in the right direction away from the Patriot way?
So I just want to clarify that I wasn't saying that it's not working anymore. What I was saying was, do we think it's still working?
I think it's remaining.
And it's more determined on the fact that the Patriots way is always next man up, no matter what, no matter who you are, everybody's an equal. We work as a team, we play, we win. And my thing with that was, well, I get that, but you also have the best quarterback to ever step on the NFL field playing for your team. And that's where I have a problem with my fandom towards Tom Brady versus my fandom for New England and the Patriot way. That being said, I thought after Tom Brady was traded that we were going to take Cam Newton because it was going to be the safest and quickest bet. Right away, I thought it. I texted everybody I knew and I said, Cam's coming to New England. And after a day of thinking it over, I am glad that we decided not to.
Well, it could still happen.
It could still happen. Do I see it happening? I do not.
No.
I do not think Cam Newton will be playing for New England. Now, if it does change, I will come on here and say that I was wrong on the next podcast we do if that happens.
I think it's very, very possible Jacoby Brissett is the quarterback for the Patriots next year.
So why would we take Ryan Hoyer back?
Insurance. Because it was also a cheap option. Hoyer was a free agent, whereas you'll have to trade for Brissett.
I think we'll have better understanding as to what happens there after the draft.
Yeah.
I feel like New England moves up. Belichick is a whiz come draft day. He is a freaking whiz.
Well, and that's why I mentioned with Brissett day 3. I mean, Brissett is not really in the plans for Indy. No. It's Phillip Rivers. He's got
for how long though?
Right, but Brissett is a fairly quarterback friendly or a franchise for the next year or two. If I'm New England, I can throw a 4th, 5th round pick during the draft where every NFL GM coach has draft fever. I mean, think about when you have your own fantasy football team, the draft's coming. That's the thing you look for all year.
Mm-hmm.
So with the NFL draft, I mean, GMs and coaches are thinking the same way. And they're thinking, I'd love to have a pick right now to grab this player for XYZ reason.
Mm-hmm.
And then New England comes calling. Hey, I've got a 4th round pick for you. We'll take Jacoby Brissett up your hands.
I'm glad it's very possible. I'm glad that you guys are bringing this up because we are running out of time. And next week, what we're going to do is we're going to start looking at the draft as it's coming up here in a couple of weeks and start discussing that. Go ahead, Scott.
I just want to add one more thing. When he was the same with the 4th round for Brissett, but they could use that 3rd or 4th to get Fromm quarterback for the future.
Fromm won't be there. We'll talk about that next week.
Yeah,
Fromm won't be there in the 3rd round.
No, definitely not. Yeah, but along with that, we'll give you guys any updates on what we hear about what's going on with the coronavirus and how that's affecting sports the same. By next week, probably the same thing. Going to have no answers, but if we have anything, we'll let you guys know. We're going to get away from the NFL. We're going to get away from the MLB and the sports that we were discussing this week, and we're going to get into UFC and boxing a little bit, start talking about that. So please feel free to tune in, you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. This is East Coast Rivals, and thank you so much for being here.
Peace.
See you.